Are you prepared for just how bad inflation can get? Because it can get a lot worse than it already is. And in fact, with June's numbers coming out saying that the CPI was at 9.1%, we should assume that things are going to continue on that same path for quite some time. Because at this point in time, I don't have much faith in our leadership or any of the leadership around the globe to actually fix some of these issues that have been around ever since 2020. And in fact, the solutions don't necessarily exist. So we're going to have to ride this one out, and it's going to get very tough. And understand, as preppers, this is going to hurt our ability to be better prepared, because I don't know about you, but I'm going to find it very difficult to survive on half of the money I currently have, which in many ways is what we're looking at. So if you're worried about preparing for what inflation is going to do to us financially, then hit the subscribe button below, because all we're going to talk about today is how we can better prepare and plan for what is coming our way using some tools that are available to us for free online. And this is something that I wanted to share with everybody so you could get a better idea of where we're going. Now, right here on the table, I have some inflation-proof items. And what do I mean by that? Well, of course, they are affected by inflation if you were to buy them. But if you buy them now, even though they're more expensive than they were 3 years ago, you're still going to eventually have something that's more valuable than the dollars you're currently spending on them. Having food stored up is very important, and things like ammunition never lose their value. So just keep in mind that there's a lot of things related to preparedness that you could be purchasing right this second that will still be worth more than the money you're spending on them in the very near future, especially if things keep going on the trajectory they're currently on. Now, there's inflation calculators that are available to us online for free, and they're very good to use for planning how we're going to strategically position ourselves for this future economic crisis we're all facing. And this also gives us some ideas about how bad this whole thing's really going to get. And I'm unfortunately here to tell you it's going to get pretty bad. So the first calculator I used is called the Smart Asset Inflation Calculator. Now, this calculator is not necessarily the one I'm suggesting you use, but I have links to the calculators we're going to discuss here in this video in the description as well as in the pinned comment, so that you can get some ideas about how to prepare for what's coming, and you can mess around with these tools to see how they can apply to your situation a little bit more closely. But this calculator had some interesting data I at least wanted to share as a baseline and to give you something to think about. So basically, what I did was I set the years on the calculator to have different increments, and then I compared what $100 would get you in different years in order to see how inflation has affected us so far. So according to the Smart Asset Inflation Calculator, $100 in 2012 is equivalent to $116 in 2022. Okay, so that's 10 years, and we have a $16 increase in how much you would have to spend to acquire the same amount of goods from 10 years ago. Okay. Now, that same calculator said that in 2019, you would have to have $104 to get the same amount of goods as you would right now in 2022, okay? So I didn't say that quite right, but you understand what I'm trying to say, right? Basically, what I'm saying is you need $104 in 2022 to buy the same amount of goods $100 could have bought you in 2019. I'm trying to say this in layman's terms and keep this simple for everybody to easily understand. Now, here's the problem. This whole thing is wrong. This calculation is wrong. And why is it wrong? It's because this particular calculator is using an average of the CPI, and it uses an average between 1.98 and 1.36% between those years. Well, we all know the CPI has gone way through the roof since then, and those numbers are not accurate, and all you have to do is go to the grocery store or the gas station, and I'm sure you understand that it's not true. You would definitely need more than $104 to buy the same amount of goods that you could have bought for $100 in 2019, right? Well, let's talk about the calculator.net inflation calculator. And this is the one I suggest you use for your future financial planning when it comes to what we're going to experience here in the sense of inflation. And look, I'm not a financial advisor. That's not what I'm trying to do here. What I'm trying to do is give you access to tools that can actually help you get some ideas about how tough your situation might become so you can prepare better for it and appropriately plan for what you might face in the sense of struggle, okay? So this calculator is much more useful because it uses historical CPI data from the United States in order to get its numbers. Now, the same calculations in the same amount of time from this calculator will show you a little bit more realistic view. So, according to this calculator, in order to buy the same amount of goods in 2022 as you would have in 2012 for $100, you would need $120.47. So in 10 years, you're talking about needing an additional $20.47 to buy the same amount of goods as $100 used to buy you. Now, that same calculation for 2019, which like I said, is before all the madness really started, okay? You would need $107.92 in 2022 in order to buy $100 worth of goods that you would have gotten in 2019. Okay, so that's more realistic. That's showing you closer to like a 7.92% CPI, right? Which is more along the lines of what we're experiencing now. However, this calculator has a more important tool that you need to pay attention to, and that's the future estimation of inflation that it can give you. And that's based on a flat rate inflation number that you put in there yourself. Now, what's nice about that is that based on June's CPI of 9.1%, we can actually calculate what that would look like over a period of time if that number was not to change. And really, there's not a lot of reasons to believe that number is going to magically go down. We know that the people who are handling our economic crisis right now are in many ways incompetent and not able to actually find solutions for what we're going to do to dig ourselves out of this. And unfortunately, one of the best solutions to these scenarios tends to be conflict. So I'd really like to avoid that if we could. But let's assume that these great leaders of the world can't fix this problem because, I mean, they still haven't, right? Well, if things continue on with that 9.1% CPI path that we're currently on, right? Here's what we're going to find ourselves with. So $100 now in 2022, well, you would need $129.86 3 years from now in order to buy the same amount of goods that $100 buys you now. And $100 right now already doesn't buy you much now, does it? So in 3 years' time, which is not very long, because that's only how long it's been since this all started basically, all right, even a little bit less, we're talking about needing an extra $30 to buy the same amount of stuff that you used to buy for $100, okay? That's a huge increase. But let's look at it a little bit further. So 5 years from now, with a 9.1% CPI, you would need $154.57 to buy the same amount of goods that $100 would buy you right now in 2022. Now your money's cut in half. Now you no longer have half of your income. Every time that these numbers keep going forward, we're losing our money, literally. And then we're also losing access to things that we need to be better prepared, or things that we need just to have basic necessities covered. And this is getting very dangerous in the sense of what this is doing to people who already didn't have enough money. Now, just to go a little bit further and to get some ideas, right? We talked about 2012 because that was 10 years ago. Gave us some ideas about what that looked like because of the inflation rate between then and now. And according to calculator.net, that was $120.47 in 2022 to buy $100 worth of goods in 2012, okay? So $20 over 10 years, right? Understandable that we need about $20 more, okay? And that's including what's been going on for the last 3 years. So here we are. Okay, now keep this in mind. And I keep saying 3 years because you understand, 2019 was a different time. But now if we go 10 years in the future, the current inflation rate at 9.1%, or the one that we're being told anyway, we all know that the real rate is much higher on most of the things that you and I need to survive. But we're just going off the numbers they're putting out there for us, okay? And using these calculators in the way that they are designed to be used, right? So in 10 years, if we maintain that 9.1% that we just experienced in June, it'll cost you $238.92 to acquire what $100 will get you right now in the sense of goods. I mean, I don't even know what to say about that. So, that's a little bit more than $20, isn't it? This is why this whole situation can get bad very quickly. And if there aren't answers or solutions to fix some of these problems, you can expect that the most clear and obvious solution is more likely to occur, like I said, which is conflict. So what do you think they're going to do? Are they going to allow this to continue into a trajectory where people will literally be starving on the streets? Or are they going to try to do something that might solve the problem in one way or the other? I'll let you decide that. Why don't you leave a comment below and give me your thoughts on that? And sorry if some of this explanation was a little jumbled in the way I was trying to explain it, but it can be difficult to put these things into layman's terms and simplify it while still maintaining the correct message. And I tried my best to do so. So I hope you understand that was my goal here. This is not to freak you out or to tell you that all your money is going to disappear overnight. What this is for you to have an idea of what to expect so that you can do what you need to do best in order to have your family situated and ready to endure some difficult times. And like I said, there's links to this stuff in the description as well as in the pinned comment if you want to jump on these calculators and get some ideas about what you may see coming. Even if you want to change the numbers around just to give yourself a little bit of leeway or some cushion, that's up to you, but that lets you plan a little bit better for your thought process. And there are links in the description as well as in the pinned comment for some things that I'm affiliated with that can help support the channel if that's stuff you're interested in, because anything you get now, especially regarding like long-term survival food and things of that nature, is probably going to maintain its value better than the US dollar, because this is where we're heading and things are getting very difficult. So I wanted to at least bring this information to you, give you something to think about. And if you have anything else for me, leave it in the comments below or go to magicprepper.com. And without anything else to say about just how bad this inflation thing can get if something doesn't correct course very soon here, it's going to be it for Magic Prepper.